He chased every extreme sport and dated younger women, but during our entire marriage, he never brought another woman into our home. Until the 8th year. Landon had a paragliding accident. When he finally opened his eyes in the hospital, the first person he saw wasn't me, his wife of nearly a decade, but Bianca Turner, a stranger who had simply wandered into the wrong room. From that moment, he became convinced she was the love of his life. He showered her with luxury cars and grand mansions, filled her world with imported roses, and spent hundreds of millions on diamonds, all just to make her smile. And to please her whims, he broke me piece by piece. When Bianca wanted a laugh, Landon forced me to dance on a frozen lake in nothing but a thin dress at -5 degrees. I performed again and again on the cracking ice until my body finally gave way. When Bianca played a racing game, she deliberately rammed into me at full speed. My legs snapped under the impact, and blood soaked my abdomen. Landon barely flinched. "She doesn't know any better," he said coldly, as though that excused everything. Clutching my stomach, I dragged my shattered body off the floor and whispered to myself, "The debt I owed your family is finally repaid." But Landon never saw me. He only saw Bianca. One evening, I passed by a private club where Landon was drinking with his friends. The soundproofing was terrible. Their laughter spilled through the walls. "Landon, aren't you afraid Celeste will really leave you one day?" someone asked. His cold laugh sliced through me like a blade. She loves me to death. Once I'm done playing around, a few sweet words and she'll come crawling back. The wife my parents chose. She's lifeless in bed. How could she ever compete with Bianca, who actually knows how to please a man? Every word bled into my ears, cutting deeper than any wound Bianca had ever given me. I threw back my wine, the burns searing down my throat, and laughed bitterly to myself. After enduring 99 betrayals, this would be the last. By the time I returned home at 2 a.m., the villa reeked of alcohol and perfume. Women's underwear and a man's tie littered the floor, a black stocking dangling from the stair railing like a flag of victory. I froze, ready to turn and leave unnoticed. "Stop." Landon descended the spiral staircase with Bianca in his arms. She wore nothing but his shirt, her neck littered with red marks. He looked at me with bored eyes, as if I were nothing more than the hired help. "Clean this up," he ordered lazily, his fingers tracing Bianca's waist. When I didn't move, he grabbed my wrist, his grip unrelenting. "Not cleaning? Fine. I'll dock the staff's salary for an entire year." He knew my weakness too well. I couldn't bear for the servants to suffer because of me. So I knelt on the cold marble and picked up every shameful trace of their indulgence. Bianca giggled, curling into his chest as he fed her grapes, his fingertips brushing her lips with infuriating tenderness. When I finally rose, my hands raw and trembling, I whispered, "Landon, let's die." But Bianca suddenly gagged. Landon's expression shifted instantly. "Bianca, don't tell me." He turned to me, his voice sharp and cold. "Go buy a pregnancy test, now." The late autumn wind sliced through me as I stood outside the 24-hour pharmacy, clutching the box in frozen fingers. When I returned, Bianca sat smugly at the edge of the bed, the test in her hand. 2 glaring red lines. Landon's face lit up like the sun had risen just for him, and mine shattered into darkness. "I want to live in the master bedroom," Bianca pouted, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "They say south-facing rooms are better for the baby." Landon didn't even glance at me. His words fell like ice. "Celeste, move to the basement." Bianca's eyes wandered to the bracelet on my wrist, the one Landon had clasped on me the night we were married. "That diamond is lovely. I heard it's especially good for pregnant women." For a moment, my throat tightened. But without a word, I slipped it off and placed it into her waiting hand. Bianca wasn't like the others. He had never brought any woman home before her. For her, he faked amnesia, forced me to dance on cracking ice, and let her shatter my body on the racetrack. For her, I had become invisible. The basement greeted me with the stench of dampness and dust. Upstairs, the faint creaking of the bed echoed through the night. I lay awake on a hard mattress, staring at the ceiling, listening to the rhythm of betrayal until dawn. By morning, Bianca's shrill giggles drifted down like knives. I hurried upstairs to my former room, desperate to make sure my documents were untouched. Relief flickered through me when I found them. I gathered everything into a bag. I had made my decision. I would divorce him and disappear into the northern city where even his shadow couldn't reach me. "Celeste, what are you looking for?" Bianca leaned against the doorframe, draped in silk and smugness. Her eyes landed on the pendant at my chest, and her lips curled. "That necklace is gorgeous." I instinctively pressed the pendant to my chest. "It belonged to my grandfather. I can't give it to you." She sneered but didn't argue. Instead, she followed me down the stairs, her presence like poison at my back. Halfway down, she leaned close and hissed, "Everything in this villa will be mine. Once I give birth to the Walker heir, you'll be nothing but dust beneath my feet." I quickened my pace, desperate to escape her venom. But at the curve of the stairwell, she yanked me backward with sudden force. "Give it to me!" "Let go!" I twisted to break free. Her scream pierced the air. "Ah!" In the next instant, she dragged me down with her. My lower back slammed against the steps. A sharp crack splintered through me. Pain blinded me as darkness swallowed my vision. "Bianca!" Landon's furious voice thundered from the doorway. Through the haze, I saw him charge forward. Not to me, but to her. I opened my mouth to explain, but before a word left my lips, his foot slammed into my side. I crashed into the wall. Blood rushed up my throat, spilling warm and metallic across my lips. "Landon, it hurts," Bianca whimpered in his arms, her tears staining his shirt. He didn't look at me. His eyes burned with hate. "If anything happens to her, Celeste, you're dead." Hours later, a servant found me crumpled on the floor and rushed me to the hospital. The sharp scent of disinfectant filled my lungs. The doctor studied the X-ray, his brows knitting. "Her third rib is fractured. She needs—" "Draw her blood, now!" Landon's voice cut through the room like thunder as he stormed in, his shirt soaked with Bianca's blood. The doctor faltered. "But she's severely malnourished. Drawing blood could put her life at risk." Landon's hand closed around his collar. "This hospital belongs to the Walker family. Say one more word, and you're out." A cold needle pierced my skin. My strength drained with every drop that flowed into the tube, as though life itself were being stolen from me. Landon held out a cup of water, his face unreadable. "Drink." It was the first time in years he had offered me anything. I turned my head away, silent. His sneer was razor sharp. With a flick of his wrist, he hurled the cup against the nightstand. It shattered with a sharp crack, shards scattering inches from my hand. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. After they drained my blood, Landon walked out without so much as a glance. I lay on the cold hospital bed, shivering between waves of fever and chills, until the darkness swallowed me whole. When I woke again, night had already fallen. The IV bag beside me dripped sluggishly, half full of nutrient solution. Then came her voice. Alora Walker, Landon's mother. Her shrill words carried through the hallway like a whip. "Bitch! Can't even bear a child and now you dare curse the Walker bloodline?" The door burst open with a violent kick. Before I could whisper "Mom," her hand cracked across my face. The sting seared through my skull, leaving me dizzy. "You want a divorce so badly? Then get out." Her mask of gentility had twisted into cruelty. "If it weren't for your family's pathetic connections, do you think we'd let a barren hen like you marry into the Walkers?" I could only whisper, hoarse and broken, "I'm sorry, Mom." She didn't even look back. After striking me, she swept out toward Bianca's ward. My trembling fingers brushed against my lower abdomen. Once, there had been a child there. It had happened months earlier. Landon had forced me to join them for a fun day of racing. I still remembered Bianca's wicked smile as she floored the accelerator. Her cart slammed straight into mine. Agony tore through me as I tumbled to the ground, clutching my stomach. Landon's cold voice cut through the air. "She's just a kid. Don't take it so seriously. She was only playing." They left me bleeding on the edge of the track like discarded debris, and I lost the baby. While I lay in a hospital bed, broken from the miscarriage, Bianca sent video after video, her and Landon laughing in the Maldives, smiling as though my pain didn't exist. But not everything had always been this way. When we first married, Landon would bring home desserts from my favorite bakery. Even when he worked late, he'd tiptoe inside, careful not to wake me. Back then, I had believed our arranged marriage might grow into something real, a home, a future. But my father ruined everything. Blinded by greed, he kept asking the Walkers for money. Then came that shameful day at a roadshow. Drunk and reckless, he barged into the event, shouting, "Landon, my daughter married you, and this is how you treat her father. Give me $500,000, or I'll tell the media she's in love with another man." The event collapsed into chaos, my reputation with it. When my father later died in a drunk driving accident, Landon didn't even attend the funeral. All of it, every wound, every humiliation, came rushing back. Tears streamed down my face, unstoppable. That night, fever consumed me, my body burning at 39 degrees. Through the haze, I thought I saw Landon by my bed, brows furrowed in concern. But when I opened my eyes, there was no one there. The only thing waiting was Bianca's latest Instagram post. Landon had bought her a yacht and named it after her. My phone rang, shattering the silence. "Hello, Mrs. Walker. This is Evander Russell from Orion Banquet Planning," a cheerful voice greeted. "President Walker instructed us to reserve the finest venue for your baby's 100-day banquet. He's also arranged—" I ended the call before he could finish. My throat tightened until it felt like I was swallowing cotton. The day I was discharged, no one came for me. I hailed a cab, dragging my weakened body back to the villa. When I pushed the door open, Bianca lounged on the sofa, sipping vegetable soup. A servant knelt before her, massaging her feet. "Oh, you're back," she sneered. Then Landon appeared on the staircase, his frown deepening when his eyes landed on me. "Celeste, from today, you'll be responsible for preparing Bianca's meals. Her morning sickness is severe, and you need to—" I didn't let him finish. Without a word, I turned and walked straight to the basement, not sparing him a single glance. Landon kicked my suitcase, sending it flying. Clothes scattered across the floor like broken dreams. He seized my chin, forcing my gaze to meet his. "I'm talking to you. Are you deaf?" I stared back at him, my voice unnervingly calm. "Since Bianca's pregnant, let's just get a divorce. I'll move out and you can take care of her." For a brief moment, he froze. Then rage erupted. He slammed me into the wall so hard the frame rattled. "Celeste, what are you pretending now?" His breath scorched my skin. "Don't worry. As long as you behave, the title of Mrs. Walker will always be yours." A hollow laugh escaped me, raw and bitter. Tears blurred my vision. 8 years of marriage, and what had that title ever given me, other than endless humiliation? I had studied Michelin star cuisine for him, only to watch him wine and dine other women. I had dressed myself in the style he liked, only to overhear him on the phone mocking me as a cheap imitation. For a flicker of a second, something like softness passed across his face. But it vanished just as quickly, replaced by the familiar cold indifference. "Celeste, don't mistake my kindness for weakness." I bent to gather my scattered clothes. My fingers brushed against a photograph, half hidden among them. Our wedding day. Landon stood beside me in the picture, smiling with a warmth I could hardly believe had once been real. Dragging my suitcase toward the door, I nearly made it out when my phone rang. "Hello? Is this the family of Olivia Easton?" A nurse's voice rushed through the line. "She suffered a fall and is suspected of cerebral hemorrhage. Emergency surgery may be required. Please come immediately." The blood drained from my face. I spun toward Landon, nails digging into my palms. "Landon, can I borrow 100,000? My grandmother, she—" Years of obedience had never prepared me for this. The moment I realized I didn't even have enough money to save the woman who raised me. Landon's expression shifted into one of amusement. He tugged at his tie, lips curling. "Oh, what a coincidence." Bianca slid up beside him, her finger tracing idle circles on his chest. "Sister Celeste," she drawled in syrupy sweetness. "I heard just last week that your grandma's still dancing in the village square." Her head tilted, smile sharpened. "Lying about your grandma to get money? That's such bad karma." Landon's gaze chilled. He pulled a stack of checks from his wallet and waved them before me. 100,000? Sure. His cruel smirk widened. But first, go buy us some condoms. The taste of blood filled my mouth as I bit down hard on my lip. Fine, the word trembled out of me. Behind me, Bianca giggled. And make sure they're strawberry flavored. The rain poured as I stumbled through the streets, tears and raindrops blurring my vision. The convenience store clerk gave me a strange, pitying look as I paid, but I no longer cared. By the time I returned, soaked and breathless, the villa's upstairs lights glowed. Through the walls, I could hear Bianca's coquettish giggles and Landon's low groans. The door opened suddenly. Landon leaned lazily against the frame, eyes sweeping over me with disdain. Go wash Bianca's underwear. His voice was casual, yet it sliced through me like a blade. My fists trembled at my sides, but I lowered my head and walked to the bathroom. Cold water numbed my hands as I scrubbed lace fabric beneath the faucet, while the sounds upstairs grew louder, each one a nail hammered into my dignity. Finally, when I could no longer bear it, I forced myself to knock on the bedroom door. Landon, I did everything you asked. The money, can I have it now? The bedroom door flung open with a violent crack. Landon's gaze was sharp, his eyes filled with cold brutality. He let out a cruel, mocking laugh, tearing a check from his stack. Addicted to playing the pitiful victim, are you? The check smacked against my face before fluttering to the ground. My trembling hands reached for it, tears burning at the corners of my eyes, but I couldn't cry. Not now. Grandma was waiting for me. Clutching the check with all my strength, I ran out into the night and hailed the first taxi I could find. My heart pounded with every passing second as the city lights blurred by the window. At the hospital, a nurse glanced up, her tone sharp and impatient. Relative of Olivia Easton? The old lady couldn't wait for you, afraid of the expense. She left on her own. Do you think cerebral hemorrhages can wait? Go find her now. The words hit me like a thunderbolt. My legs nearly gave out beneath me as panic seized my chest. I stumbled back into a cab, urging the driver to hurry toward the countryside. By the time I pushed open the courtyard door, I froze. Grandma was sprawled on the ground, her face pale, lips trembling faintly as though she had been calling my name. Grandma! My voice tore through the silence as I dropped to my knees, pulling her into my arms. Hours later, under the harsh white glow of the hospital lights, the doctor removed his mask. His eyes were solemn, heavy with regret. She was delayed too long. My condolences. No! My knees buckled. I clutched at his sleeve, shaking, begging. Please, try again. I have money now. I really have money. But the steady flatline told me the truth. Grandma would never wake again. I spent the night in the old house, refusing food or water. Tears ran dry until only emptiness remained. The silence of dawn was broken only by the faint vibration of my phone. Bianca. Her message was a video. I tapped it open and bile rose in my throat. She was straddling Landon, her voice laced with laughter as she teased. The doctor said the first 3 months are fine. My stomach churned. My thumb shook as I slammed the video shut, nausea rising like a tide. I pushed open the creaky wooden door, desperate for air. On the village path outside, a gleaming Bentley stood out against the shabby houses. Several men in suits clustered around a tall figure, gesturing at the fields. President Campbell, this land is perfect for a resort development. The man turned at the sound of my steps. Our eyes met. His pupils contracted sharply, as though struck by recognition. Before I could process it, the world tilted. Darkness rushed in like a tide. Strong arms caught me mid-fall, the crisp scent of pine and earth enveloping me. His voice was urgent, commanding. Arrange a helicopter, now, immediately! The last thing I heard was the roar of blades slicing the sky as darkness swallowed me whole. Meanwhile, Landon woke when the sun was already high. He rubbed his temples, drained from his night with Bianca. Yet, amid the haze of pleasure, an image pierced his mind, my tear-filled eyes from the night before. A strange unease gnawed at him. He reached for his phone and dialed my number. Only an automated voice answered. Sorry, the number you dialed is powered off. He opened WhatsApp. My profile picture was gone, replaced with a black screen. Where are you? He typed. The message returned with a red exclamation mark. Landon shot out of bed, flinging the phone onto the sheets. Bianca, still drowsy, reached to cling to him, but he shoved her away with a snarl. Celeste. Barefoot, he thundered down the stairs, searching the villa. Every room was empty, hollow. He even forced open the basement door, only to choke on layers of dust, as if no one had ever lived there. The doorbell rang. A courier handed him a package. Inside was a set of divorce papers. A note written in my hand lay on top. Landon, let's get divorced. I'm tired. For a moment, Landon couldn't breathe. 8 years. No matter how much he played outside, I had always been there, quietly waiting. But now, I was gone. At the bottom of the stairs, Bianca's eyes flicked to the papers. A gleam of triumph flashed before she smoothed her face into sweetness. Sister Celeste must just be throwing a tantrum. Landon, weren't you going to take me out today? Get lost! Landon snapped, grabbing his car keys. He stormed out, leaving her stunned, her eyes burning with hatred. He searched everywhere. The cafe, the flower shop, the library. Nothing. By dusk, a single thought struck him. The old house. From a distance, he froze. White mourning banners fluttered weakly at the door. An old neighbor sighed. The old lady passed suddenly. One fall and she never got back up. That girl stayed by her side so long, then vanished. No one knows where she went. Landon's blood ran cold. His mind replayed that night. The night he'd sent me out into the rain for condoms, just so he could indulge Bianca. He went to his mother, desperate, but her words were cutting. If she left, let her go. You were going to divorce anyway. You don't even like her. Landon's fury erupted. He slammed a teacup into the floor, shards scattering. I'm not divorcing. I never said I wanted a divorce. Who gave her the right to leave me? Days later, at an upscale club, Landon passed a private room when a voice stopped him cold. Bianca's. Oh, Bianca, you haven't worked the floor in a while. A man chuckled. Found yourself a sugar daddy? Bianca's laugh was syrupy but laced with venom. That idiot was easy to fool. I casually said I wanted to see his wife dance, and he made her dance on a frozen lake. Later, I said I wanted to play a racing game, then purposely crashed into her. She lost the baby, and didn't even dare say a word. Landon's vision tunneled. A baby? Celeste? Was pregnant? You little fox, the greasy man said. What if I want that body of yours again? Bianca giggled, low and shameless. Brother Xander, I can take care of you right now. The sound of rustling clothes filled the room. Landon's knuckles turned white, veins bulging. He staggered away, rage coiling inside him like a beast. When Bianca returned to the villa, the lights were dim. Landon sat in the living room, a mountain of cigarette ash piled in the tray. Her stomach knotted. Something was wrong. Still, she forced a sweet smile, throwing herself into his arms. Landon, the baby's kicking. She grabbed his hand, trying to press it to her belly. But the moment her fingers touched him, she was flung violently to the ground. Ah! Bianca shrieked, her hair spilling loose as she looked up at him in terror. Landon, what are you doing? He rose slowly, shadows swallowing his expression. His presence was like a storm, dark and suffocating. Landon seized her by the hair, dragging her across the floor. Her cries echoed through the hall. Moments later, she was kneeling on the racetrack, trembling. Landon slid into a modified race car, rolling down the window with a cruel smile. Didn't you say it was just a game? No, please, Bianca screamed, mascara streaking her face. I'm pregnant, it's your child. The engine roared, tires screeched, the car shot forward. By the time it ended, Bianca was bloodied, broken, sprawled on an ice rink. Her lips were blue, body shaking violently. Landon's voice cut through the night. Dance, didn't you love dancing the most? She staggered to her feet, each step leaving a bloody mark on the ice, until her body gave out and she collapsed. Rushed to the hospital, the verdict was merciless. Bianca would never bear children again. Landon, still seething, demanded Celeste's medical records. When the doctor placed the file in his hand, his fingers shook as he read the words. 8 weeks pregnant, miscarriage. The truth sliced into him like a blade. Celeste, had been carrying his child. Landon kept flipping through the medical file, each page more damning than the last. Severe malnutrition, fractures, forced blood draws leading to shock, multiple soft tissue contusions. Memories crashed over him like a tidal wave. It had been Bianca who whispered daily in his ear, "Celeste wants to lose weight," persuading him to let the maid starve her. It had been Bianca, pregnant and spoiled, who made him draw Celeste's blood while she burned with fever. His fist slammed into the wall. The sting of broken skin and the trickle of blood were nothing compared to the hollow ache ripping through his chest. The villa was silent when he returned. The presence that had always been there, soft, patient, waiting, was gone. The house felt cold, lifeless. Collapsing onto the sofa, Landon buried his face in his hands. The weight of memory suffocated him. He suddenly realized he had never hated Celeste. What he despised was the forced marriage, the humiliation of family politics. But that first day, when he'd seen the shy, blushing girl lower her head, something had flickered inside him, a fragile joy. The early days had been sweet. He would buy her desserts from her favorite bakery. She would wait up late for him, eyes sleepy but full of hope. But then her father had caused scandal after scandal, and Landon, furious and humiliated, had drowned himself in women and wine. Every time Celeste turned away silently, he felt his chest burn with nameless rage. Why didn't she fight? Why didn't she scream? He never realized she did cry, just where he couldn't see. Now it hit him like lightning. The one who had loved him most, he had destroyed with his own hands. I slowly opened my eyes. The faint scent of sandalwood lingered in the air. Sunlight filtered through carved lattice windows, scattering patterns across the blanket. "You're awake?" A low, calm voice. I turned my head. A man stood by the bed, moon-white robes draped over his tall frame. His long fingers moved gracefully over a string of prayer beads, each clink echoing softly. His features were distant, refined, like a deity painted in ink. "You recognize me?" His voice was quiet, but it carried authority. I blinked, then nodded faintly. I remembered glimpsing him once at a banquet, the elusive head of Campbell Corporation. Rumors said he was devoted to God, donating millions each year. Yet in the business world he was decisive, ruthless. "President Campbell," his assistant reminded him gently. "The international conference." But Kaden Campbell didn't even glance back. His tone was firm, unquestionable. "You attend on my behalf." The sandalwood scent lulled me and I drifted back into sleep. When I woke again, a steaming bowl of yams and cereal sat on the table, with delicate side dishes placed neatly beside it. The TV flickered with breaking news. President of Walker Corporation, Landon Walker, offers a $10 million reward for the missing Mrs. Walker. A sharp pain stabbed my chest. I pressed my hand over my heart. The ache was unbearable, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't remember why. A week later, Kaden entered with a quiet rustle of pages, a stack of comic books in his arms. I lay by the window watching him make coffee. The way his wrist moved was elegant, unhurried, almost mesmerizing. "Kaden," I asked suddenly, leaning in closer. "You treat me so well. Is it because you like me?" His hand froze. A faint flush crept to the tips of his ears. The man who struck fear into boardrooms across the world was suddenly helpless. "You really don't remember anything?" His gaze searched mine, dark and unreadable. "I just remember you're Kaden," I said with a playful tilt of my head. "And very rich." A smile tugged at my lips. "Oh, and you smell really nice." For a heartbeat, silence stretched between us. Then he laughed. A soft, rare sound, like mountain spring water running over smooth stone. And for the first time in a long while, my chest didn't feel so heavy. As Kaden laughed, a fleeting sorrow crossed his eyes. So quick I almost thought I imagined it. "You lost your memory after your grandmother's passing," he said gently, his fingers rolling the prayer beads. "Back then, you hated me. You even slapped me once." I blinked at him in shock. "Why?" You're such a good person. His gaze grew complicated. Because I was Landon's business rival, and you were his wife. I made a deal that cost him, and when he fell ill, you came to confront me. He paused, his voice heavy. But now, you're already divorced. He hurt you in ways I can't forgive. I pursed my lips. Was I really that unreasonable back then? Kaden let out a quiet laugh, his lashes catching the sunlight like they were dusted with gold. For a moment, he looked more like a dream than a man of flesh and blood. That Landon treated me so badly, there's no way I could have liked him, I blurted, then bit my lip. My cheeks flushed. You're far more handsome. I'll just like you instead. The prayer beads slipped from his fingers, scattering across the floor. In the next breath, he leaned close, his hand resting softly on my head. His warm breath brushed against my skin as his whisper lingered between us. Okay, but as he gathered the beads again, his voice dropped even lower, almost a plea. When your memories return, you can't leave me. I've already waited too long. From then on, Kaden's care only grew more tender. I often found him in the kitchen, sleeves rolled, stirring porridge with quiet patience. President Campbell never cooks, his assistant muttered in disbelief one evening, nearly dropping his files. A single glance from Kaden silenced him instantly, but I still caught the faint red blooming at the tips of his ears. Day by day under his watch, my strength returned. One evening, while he adjusted his tie before a business dinner, I tugged at his sleeve, unable to contain my curiosity. Do people usually bring their partners to events like these? His hands froze mid-knot. His Adam's apple shifted as he swallowed. Sometimes. Then take me, I pleaded, shaking his arm lightly. I'll go crazy if I keep staying home. His brows furrowed. You might run into Landon. So what? He's just my ex-husband. I shrugged, trying to sound braver than I felt. Why would I be afraid of him? Kaden's grip suddenly tightened around my hand, holding it with such force I gasped, but he didn't release me, even as we walked to the car. When the door to the private room opened, laughter and chatter filled the air, until silence fell like a blade. Kaden, a young heir called out, his jaw dropping. And who's this beauty? My woman. Kaden's deep voice cut through the room. The words dropped like a thunderclap, freezing every pair of eyes on us. Gasps rippled through the air. Wait, isn't that Landon's... One man began, but his words were drowned out as the door slammed open again. Landon stormed in. The moment his eyes landed on me, his face drained of color. Celeste, he shouted, striding forward and grabbing my wrist with a desperate grip. Let go, I hissed in pain, yanking my hand back. In an instant, Kaden stepped in front of me, pulling me behind him. His presence was sharp, protective, immovable. She's mine now. Kaden's voice was low, deadly calm. Bullshit, Landon snarled, his veins bulging with fury. She's my wife. You think you can steal her and get away with it? This is kidnapping. I'll call the cops. The room erupted with uneasy voices, men trying to pacify the storm. But before anyone could stop him, Landon's fist crashed into Kaden's jaw. Landon, I cried, rushing forward, shoving him with all my strength. My hand swung before I could stop myself. The slap cracked through the room like a whip. Silence swallowed everything. Landon clutched his cheek, his eyes wide with disbelief, then narrowing with rage. Celeste, you hit me? For him? You struck first, I snapped, glaring at him with all the anger I'd buried for years. Now you owe him an apology. Landon's face darkened, regret, and something raw flickering behind his eyes. After a long, painful silence, he spoke, voice hoarse. It was my fault before. Can you come home with me? Then, turning on Kaden like a man who'd just found a knife in his back, he spat. Kaden, are you even human? Celeste's been missing for so long and you kept her from me. You took advantage of her. He reached for me. Instinct made me step behind Kaden. Chaos tore through the room. A disheveled woman barreled in and flung herself at Landon. Landon! The doctor said I can still be treated. We can still have children, she cried. He kicked her away. She crumpled to the floor. When she saw me, her face twisted with venom. "Celeste! Why aren't you dead yet?" she screamed, voice raw with hate. "Landon killed my child for you!" White-coated staff rushed in and hauled her out, shouting, pulling her away before anyone could do more than stare. I tugged Kaden's sleeve and whispered, "He is terrifying. He treats his own people so cruelly." Landon went pale. He stepped toward me, confused and pleading warring on his features. "Celeste, what's wrong with you?" Kaden cut in quietly. "She lost her memory. She doesn't remember the past." Landon's knees folded beneath him with a sickening thud. He collapsed to the floor. Trembling, he stretched a hand toward me. "Celeste." "I know I was wrong," he rasped, voice breaking. Pretending I had amnesia. That was wrong. I checked the records." He fumbled a crumpled stack of hospital reports from his pocket, fingers shaking as the pages fell. "I found out, you—" He couldn't finish. The words dissolved in his throat. Kaden moved, calm and steady, stepping between us. "Celeste, do you want to talk to him?" "No." I flinched as if struck and clutched Kaden's coat. Landon tried to rise to reach me again, but Kaden's cold stare rooted him to the spot. Standing there on his knees, Landon's voice cracked with raw, unbearable emotion. "Celeste, I'll prove it to you. I was wrong. Let me make it right." I couldn't stay. I pulled Kaden's sleeve and we left, the sound of muffled sobs following like an echo I refused to answer. Outside, the rumors began to bloom like poison. Wherever Kaden and I went, Landon found us, bearing dazzling jewelry, frantic promises, property deeds, and declarations. "Celeste, this is the blue diamond you always dreamed of." Another time. "I bought homes in every city you mentioned. Wherever your heart leads, we'll live there." His hands shook when he presented a certificate. "I named a star after you, the Celeste star." Each offering trembled in his grasp, like a man trying to bribe his conscience back to life. Kaden would only stand between him and me, expression unreadable. He chased Landon away every time without a word. Landon's pleas grew more fevered, more public, until one golden afternoon the front gate slammed open. He arrived flanked by 10 bodyguards in black. In a sharp suit, he carried a velvet box, then dropped to one knee in the courtyard, as if the world were a stage made for him. With a snap of his fingers, fireworks exploded overhead. Rose petals drifted down as a full orchestra swelled somewhere unseen. "Celeste," he called, words trembling with melodrama and pleading. "Whether you remember or not, give me a chance. All the pain I caused, it was my fault. Let me make you the happiest wife in the world." I set my coffee cup down, meeting him without flinching. The petals fell. The music swelled. I said one word, steady and cold. "No." For a moment, the fireworks looked ridiculous, bright sparks against the truth. Landon's face contorted, then collapsed into something exhausted, like a man who'd finally run out of script. Kaden's hand tightened around mine. Behind him, Landon's guards lowered their heads, unsure what to do with a love that had become an accusation. His face was drained of color. "Why? I've prepared for so long." "Landon." I met his eyes without flinching. "You've always done things your way." Kaden was right. You were cold when I needed you most. Now that someone else stands beside me, you suddenly want to win me back. You never once asked what I wanted. He stumbled back like I'd struck him with full force. Then he turned and left, defeated, hollow, and without a word. For days, my heart felt heavy, though not in the way it once did. It wasn't longing. It was the ache of seeing someone I once loved reduced to shadows. Then came a call from an unknown number. On the other end, a voice breathed heavily, rough and broken, as if enduring some deep pain. "Celeste, I'm hurt. Can you come to see me?" The pause that followed was heavy, trembling with desperation. "I just want to see you." My hand didn't shake this time. I hung up without hesitation. The next time I heard of him, It wasn't through whispers or his sudden presence. It was through a news headline, tucked between stock market updates and celebrity gossip. Landon Walker, president of Walker Corporation, has been severely injured in a paragliding accident. Currently hospitalized. I stared at the screen, numb for a moment. Life had an odd way of answering questions we never voiced aloud. Kaden noticed the news too. He glanced at me hesitantly, his eyes cautious, as though he wanted to ask something but didn't dare. I couldn't help but laugh softly at his expression. Reaching out, I pinched his cheek. "What? You think I'd leave you behind just to take care of him?" He didn't reply, but the look in his eyes darkened slightly, the unspoken worry plain in his silence. So I tiptoed up, wrapped my arms around his neck, and whispered against his ear, "Did you forget? The only one I like now is you." His arms wrapped around me instantly, tightening with such force it nearly stole my breath. For the first time in years, I felt safe. Truly, utterly safe. When the day of our wedding arrived, the sunlight felt like a blessing itself. I stood beside Kaden, my heart light, my vows steady, when movement at the edge of the crowd caught my eye. Landon. He stood at a distance, a silent figure in a tailored suit, thinner than I remembered. There was no desperation in his gaze, no madness in his eyes, just silence. The accident had left him scarred in more ways than one. His vocal cords were damaged. He could no longer speak. And so he said nothing. He only watched as we exchanged our rings, his expression unreadable. In that moment, as Kaden's fingers slid the ring onto mine, all my memories came flooding back. The coldness in Landon's eyes, the way he dismissed my love, the moments I begged for warmth only to be met with silence. Strangely, my heart no longer ached. Sunlight poured over Kaden's hands, glinting against the golden bands we now shared. I held onto it, held onto him, knowing with unshakable certainty. This time I had truly found happiness.